I got my notification. We're live.
Well, that's always a good sign. Again, every week, and we're on, I guess this is technically show 170, I don't know, 171. But anyway, we have to check and make sure everything works and make sure the technology things are being nice to us today.
Now, I'm not monitoring comments, so you're going to have to monitor comments and whatever folks say. So I wanted to start off this evening and welcome a couple of guests that we have on our show. We've got State Senator Robert Mills, who is incumbent in Senate District 36, and we've got our local school board representative, Adam Bass, who is vying for the seat as well. Two fine gentlemen, and who've agreed to sit down to a debate, discuss the issues, and you know, let the public see what differences they may or may not have.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, sounds like a plan to me. So here's the way this is going to work. I'm going to put up in the comments as soon as I get my other laptop going here, basically the rules of the debate, but at least as far as the audience is concerned. But the primary rule is no personal attacks. Now, we're not going to put any comments up, you know, unexpectedly or you know, throw anything up for a gotcha or anything like that. So those of you that are putting comments in there, if you have a question that you want us to consider asking the candidates later on in the show, if they agree to it, put the letter Q before the question in the comment. So that way I can search for it easier in the comments as they come in. We don't, of course, we're not really moderating the comments, you know, like we usually do. But again, if you have something that you want us to consider asking the candidates, if they're willing, then make sure that it's something that would pertain to both candidates. It needs to be something about policy or things of that nature. Other than that, folks, y'all are free, you know, to ask what you want in the comments, and maybe the candidates will come back later and address those questions or comments. So as long as that sounds fair to everybody.
Yeah, and we'll go a little more on the format. We'll explain to the audience of what the candidates have agreed, you know, to as far as the rules, and we might need to address that a little bit. Are y'all agreeable after we get through your questions to take questions off the internet a little bit?
Not a problem.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So to start off, I think probably the best thing would be to have y'all give you a few minutes just to introduce yourselves. You know, you being the incumbent, we'll let you go first and introduce yourself.
Thanks, and I appreciate the hospitality and the chance to visit with your customer base tonight. I'm Robert Mills, currently the incumbent senator for District 36 in the state of Louisiana. My wife Sheila and I live in Bossier City and had been in Benton prior to that, but we moved down the traffic, and with no kids in school, we were able to take a trip further south and near 220 and I-20, and we loved that part of town. So we're comfortable in the Stonebridge subdivision, and pleased to be there and pleased to be here tonight. I can tell you, after 4 years of occupying Senate District 36, it's an honor and a privilege, and for the most part, a pleasure to be able to do the work of the people. It's been a very, very interesting several years. Of course, I got elected in late 2019, was sworn in early 2020, and literally just about the time we started getting revved up, COVID hits. I opened an office in Minden, Louisiana. I opened an office in Bossier City, Louisiana. I was in the legislature in session, and all of a sudden they send us home. And the shutdown basically occurs soon thereafter. The legislature keeps going, but society seemed to have stopped. And of course, nobody comes to your offices anymore. It was a strange time, but we've worked our way through that. We're past COVID in my mind, and what's going on today is no threat to me. I don't feel threatened, and glad to be here and starting fresh for you know, hopefully a new 4 years in the legislature.
Adam?
Well, I'm Adam Bass, as you said, Rex. I am currently on the Bossier Parish School Board. Married my wife, Brittany, who's also a Bossier resident. We've made our whole lives here. We just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary in June, first day of summer. 3 children, all in Bossier Parish schools. Have a 15-year-old daughter, Baylor. I have a 12-year-old son, Bear, and a 10-year-old son, Beckett. Small business owner here in Bossier. I've owned an all-state agency here for over 20 years. Grew up here, went to school here, went off to Tech and got a chance to play football. Played center. I would like to tell people I was the quarterback of the fat kids and got to call the protections. So just grew up here and have loved the opportunity to serve on the school board, and looking forward to asking the voters of Senate District 36 to support me to go and serve for them in the state Senate.
All right. Well, I would point out to both of y'all that you both, that combined was under 4 minutes. So that was pretty good.
You didn't tell us how much time we had.
I did not, but
I was being overly polite.
In which that leads me into the next part, which is to kind of go over the agreed upon rules that we had. And so we had initially said, we had y'all submit the questions to us, the candidates. I mean, the candidates submit the questions to us. Got called off a little guard. Got a curveball thrown to me, so y'all have to forgive me this evening. So we agreed on times, and so we're going to have to kind of work through this. We had originally said that the terms were going to be 5 minutes response to the questions, and I think it was 2 minutes response. We have a proposal for a shorter time length. Would y'all be agreeable to 4 minutes response to the questions and 2 minutes retort if either one of y'all wanted to retort to your opponent's answer?
Sure.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that is splitting the difference between the requests.
You're going to have to give us a clue on time.
Now,
unless I can look at the clock somewhere.
That's right. So for the audience, I have a time clock that I'm monitoring, and I'm going to, when you start, I will start the time clock after asking the first question, and then, you'll hear the bell, and you'll know that your time has expired. If at that point after, both folks have answered the question, if it would end up being the original person that answered the question wants to respond to the answer that his opponent, indicate that you do, you'll get 2 minutes to respond, and then the other opponent will get 2 minutes to respond to that response.
Understood.
You're in charge.
Okay. All right. So, Rex, do you have a quarter?
Do I have a quarter? Actually, I may. I guess we need to flip and see who goes first, right? Let's see here. Got a quarter left. I have a quarter.
All right, who's going to call it?
Go ahead, Adam.
All right. Bear says it's always heads, so heads.
Well, it is tails. It is tails.
No.
All right, so the first question I ask will be Robert's question to Adam, and we'll go from there. So let me flip over here. Restart the time, and the first question is, are you committed to constitutional carry? And you can start now.
Am I committed to constitutional carry? I am committed to constitutional carry. I think this is an area where Robert and I are actually going to agree. In the state of Louisiana, I can walk around with a firearm on my hip as long as it's exposed. Walk anywhere that it's allowed. However, when I put this jacket on and it's covered, all of a sudden then it becomes a felony. And I'm committed to carry that legislation. I know you have carried that legislation, Robert. That didn't take anywhere near 4 minutes. But that was a pretty simple question, pretty simple answer. So I'm not sure if Robert wants to answer also.
All right. Robert, go.
Yeah, of course, I want to answer, and we've worked hard over the last number of years to ensure our constitutional rights to arms and to the freedoms that come with those arms. And you go back to the situation, and there's an amazing amount of conversation in Baton Rouge, and there's always people on two sides of every issue. And the gun issue definitely has, people on both sides of that issue. It's not as easy as you would think, but Northwest Louisiana and Bossier Parish in particular, Senate District 36 specifically, is very much in favor of constitutional carry. And, it is my preference, one, and two, it's the constituents' preference that we pursue every ounce of freedom that we have with guns. And it's the old simple saying, if guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns. And constitutional carry clarifies some of the, intricacies of the law. It should be, somebody shouldn't have to know all 50 different statutes that apply to guns. Let's just have one statute. You can have guns. You can carry your gun, you can wear your gun, concealed or not, just as you please. And it's an uncomfortable situation you can imagine for law enforcement when they approach anybody nowadays. But that's just the situation. It's the time now in Louisiana that we go ahead and completely formalize constitutional carry in every respect.
Good deal.
2 minutes?
If you want to.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Just a couple of questions.
Okay, hang on just a second. All right, go.
All right. Do you currently have a concealed carry permit?
No.
Okay, why?
Don't need it.
Why?
Never have needed it yet.
Okay. So you are 100% pro Second Amendment?
I am completely in favor of the Second Amendment, completely in favor of constitutional carry. It gives you the right, not the obligation, to carry a gun wherever you want, whenever you want.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood.
You have 2 minutes if you'd like.
Well, again, as Adam said, that this is something we're not going to disagree on, and I don't know that you can, do anything productive. Same thing, Adam. Do you have a concealed carry permit?
I do.
Do you have a gun on you right now?
I do not.
Good.
Why good?
I just, would just solve that problem of wondering how good you are with it, but that's just an issue.
Does it make you nervous if I had one on me?
Okay.
I'd be fine, thank you.
I was just asking.
All right. I'm gonna stop y'all right there, and I'm gonna kind of step in, and I think it would probably be better if y'all didn't direct questions. If you want, the agreed upon terms of the 2 minutes was that you would be able to respond to the opponent's answer, but not pose questions to the opponents. Now, you guys are the candidates. If y'all are agreeable to amend the rules as we're sitting here to be able to ask each other questions back, that's on y'all. But what we agreed on in the start was to respond to the answer, not to ask questions.
It would go cleaner if we stick to the original rules, in my mind.
Works for me.
Okay. All right. So I think where we're at, do we want another 2 minutes?
I'm good.
Okay. The next question would be Adam's question, and that would be his first question. And it says, since we are on Bossier Watch, what does Bossier mean to you? Robert?
Thank you. Well, Bossier's a geographical term as well as an emotional term. My great-great-great-grandfather moved to Bossier from Georgia in 1843 and bought 120 acres near Coran, right on what is now the Johnson-Coran Road. And my great-grandmother married, moved to Natchitoches, had a child. Her husband died. They moved back to the farm in Coran, and my great-grandfather was born in Natchitoches, but raised in Coran. and educated as much as they did back in those days, and moved to Caddo Parish in 1902 to get a job as a railroad engineer. But I've had great uncles that owned substantial farms here in Bossier, and Bossier's a huge area. It's a very big parish, and Bossier City is part of that, of course. My grandmother applied for a teaching job in Bossier Parish back in the early 1900s, but it's been a part of our family for a long time, although I wasn't born and raised here. I've moved here. Lots of people have moved here. We're welcomed here, and we're pleased to be here. Bossier is a term that is geographical as well as emotional. I go back to that, and so it means something different to everybody. But to me, I go back to and look at the original Bible on my office desk, dated 1846, when my great-great-great-grandfather bought his first Bible, and it's a beautiful document. You need to come by someday and see it. And he was so proud of it, he actually wrote his name, H.H. Herring, in 1846, and he put the price $6, which was a heck of a lot of money back in that day. It was about $500 in today's dollars. But Bossier means something different to everybody, and it's, like I say, to me, it's got quite a number of different meanings, and plain dealing, Benton, Bossier, Elm Grove, it's just so diverse. So big and so unique, it's emotional and geographical.
All right. Adam, you want me to read your question?
Yeah, one more time so make sure we have it.
Since we are on Bossier Watch, what does Bossier mean to you?
Bossier's home. Bossier's where I grew up. It's where I went to school. It's where I proposed to my wife. It's where we chose to locate our family. It's where we chose to open our business. It's where my children go to school. It's home. It's where we worship. Brittany and I, we met at Apollo Elementary School in the 5th grade. We went on our first date. We then went to Green Acres together and went to Airline. Graduated and went to Tech together. So Bossier's home. And we got married at Cypress Baptist Church. My parents started there in 1988 when it was just a rectangle, you know. The adults were on the right and the kids' Sunday school was on the left. And we've seen each one of our kids saved in that church. We've seen each one of our children baptized in that church. And so as far as what Bossier means to me, it means the world to me, not just geography. It's where I know the people. It's where I care about the people. And it's where the people know my family. And that's what Bossier means to me.
All right. To the next question, Robert's second question, unless you want 2 minutes.
No.
Okay. Do you have any conflicts of interest regarding insurance that would interfere with your decisions?
Any conflicts of interest as far as insurance? The answer to that question is really simple. It's no. You know, I wanted to make sure I organized my thoughts, so I read this.
I'm going to stop the time. And are these pre-prepared barks, or are those your questions?
These are my notes, but it didn't say anywhere where we couldn't have notes or be prepared.
It didn't say prepared notes, but we didn't agree to have phone. We agreed to not have phones.
We agreed to not have phones, but we also agreed that I didn't know his questions, so prepared notes.
Well, he doesn't know your questions either.
Well, I didn't say he couldn't bring notes. Look, I don't want to argue, but if I'm sure you can bring notes to the Senate.
Well, let's. I mean, do you have objection to him using notes to answer a question?
Yes.
He has an objection.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure where it said that in the rules.
Well, it didn't say that in the rules. We didn't.
So
we didn't address that. So
we said we couldn't have electronic devices where people fed us answers. So for the fact of me being prepared here, I don't understand the objection.
Well, I asked and got an answer that, that no notes, so.
well, we're at an impasse, guys. So let's see. We have a test of our legislative abilities here to come to an agreement.
Okay. Would you like to go get notes?
I've got some notes in my briefcase that, you know, I might reference later on, but I don't have answers to my questions or answers to yours, of course. But I don't know why you need notes. I mean, you know, if you've got an answer, give us an answer.
I do have an answer,
Well,
but
then you don't have to read it. Just answer.
I'm not. These are bullet points. I'm not reading it, Robert. But I tell you what. Here's what I'll say. Conflict of interest as far as insurance.
All right, hang on. So let me start your time. If we're agreeing that we're not going to go with notes and we're just going to answer the question, I stopped the clock at 3 minutes and 40 seconds. So I'm going to start the clock over now.
Okay.
Go.
All right. Conflict of interest as far as insurance. I think you would agree that an Allstate agent has never set an insurance rate. An insurance agent has never set an insurance rate. So for a conflict of interest to occur, I would have to have something that would be a conflict of interest as far as me setting rates. Here's the reality of what's going on with insurance. We have fewer people that are living in the state with the ability to purchase it. We have an insurance rate crisis that I think you would agree with that we've seen insurance rates spiral upwards out of control, which have caused businesses and people to not be able to afford it or to leave our state. As far as a conflict of interest, although I haven't had anything, a voice or a vote when it comes to insurance rates in this state, you have served on the insurance committee for the last 4 years. I've dealt with a lot of customers for the last 4 years. I've dealt with a lot of business owners for the last 4 years. What you've seen are rates continue to spiral out of control. And so during this campaign, I sat down with Tim Temple, who is the insurance commissioner-elect, for about an hour and a half because I had some ideas on effective legislation that could bring those insurance rates down. We discussed quite a few things. From a property perspective, there's a 3-year rule in the state of Louisiana. I'm not sure if you're aware. But what's happening is we're not allowing policies to be canceled along the coast once they've been there for 3 years. So we're dictating to insurance companies where they can invest in their risk. If that rule didn't exist, the ratio that Tim's heard and that we talked about, it would open up inventory for more policies to be written in northern Louisiana to about a 3-to-1 ratio. More inventory means lower insurance rates for those in Senate District 36. Now, I got your text message, the one that says you've been going to bat against the insurance industry, that I'm an insurance agent that making the money off the backs of Louisiana families. I got that. Let me tell you what I told my 3 kids, what Dad does for a living, because insurance can be a difficult concept to communicate to kids. I've been able to show up when people's lives have been torn apart by catastrophe. I've been able to show up with a check when their house caught on fire, when they got in an automobile accident and were hurt. Heaven forbid they lost a loved one. I got to show up and try and help them put their financial lives back together. But again, one thing I have never done while I have been an agent is set an insurance rate. You've had a vote on the insurance committee now for 4 years. You've had a chance to effectively pass legislation that would bring insurance rates down. Tim Temple was just elected. He's an insurance professional just like I am. So what ability does that give me by bringing insurance rates down? It should bring business back into the state because it's a cost of doing business that's out of control. Continued to spike over the last 4 years while you've been on that committee. Average Joe out there that's trying to get to work. They can afford to put gas in their car. They can afford the car. but they can't afford the insurance to get to work. So over 50% of the population is either uninsured or underinsured. I look forward to seeing what you have done or will do to address that. Let's talk about other states, okay? Why we're unique, I don't know. But there are coverages in other states that are available to be purchased where people can take care of their own insurance losses. And I have to yield my time, but I reserve my 2-minute rebuttal.
All right. Robert, do you want me to read the question again?
Yeah, Warrington.
Okay. The question was, do you have any conflicts of interest regarding insurance that would interfere with your decisions? And you have 4 minutes.
Yeah. No, I don't have any conflicts. Of course, I've retired completely from my professional career when I elected to run for office to be sure that I had no conflicts of interest with virtually anything. And so, you know, with insurance, I'm a policyholder like everybody else should be. And, you know, it's easy to make decisions and it's hard to get results. So with my 4 years on the insurance committee, we have worked hard to, in the 2020 to 2024 session, we had an uncooperative you know, governor, and so we came in with you know, several big bullet points that we tried to pass. They were watered down, but we did actually make, in 2020, people have forgotten that we actually made some progress with the seatbelt gag rule, with collateral source, with jury trial threshold. We made some improvements, and so they did not immediately affect anything with the lack of jury trials during the COVID years. We had, you know, very limited, if any, jury trials that something like the seatbelt gag rule could make a difference on, but it will over time. Now, the fact that rates go up means, you know, in most cases losses went up, and so, you know, the cost of car repairs, the higher speeds that people are driving, the more reckless that are driving, and the more uninsured people on the road, everything's going against us. But I have absolutely no hesitancy to make the right call when we have that. I have nothing to gain personally, and will not have anything to gain personally. So I also have no emotional attachments to insurance companies. They're a key piece of our economy. We've got to have more and better insurance companies in Louisiana. But when the insurance companies fail to do what they need to do, I'll step in and go head to head with them, as I did with the log truck bill back in 2021, where there was really only 2 companies writing effectively log trucks. One was an affordable company, about $13,000 a year to insure a truck. The second company, if you had to go to, was over $30,000. And people couldn't afford that, making a living. So you know, you can't make people write insurance. So I started a self-insured fund for agricultural trucks and log trucks. And we're in the final stages of getting the data done and the reinsurance bought. And we'll be, the self-insured fund that I started, being run by A.J. Gallagher and Company, a worldwide company, will be able to manage and write policies for truck owners that were unable to because insurance companies failed them. So as much as I like insurance companies, when they fail, I'll step in. I got a call just a few months ago that several hundred churches had been canceled in South Louisiana. What are we going to do? Same thing, you can't make people write insurance, and so I quickly wrote another bill to establish a self-insured insurance fund for churches and church-affiliated schools. And it's you know, was initially funded. Funding was stripped out of it at the end, the chaotic end of the session. But we look forward to getting that funded and properly put in place. And churches all across Louisiana are contacting us, trying to get into the self-insured fund that doesn't even, you know, exist other than on paper today. So I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get my constituents and the important industries in Louisiana properly insured, or as best we can insured. Thank you.
All right, so 2 minutes.
Yes, so 2 minutes. You said something that was key, is to attract additional insurers into the state of Louisiana. You voted for $45 million to attract additional insurers into Louisiana. In my discussion with Tim Temple, that $45 million actually went to 7 carriers who are already writing insurance in the state of Louisiana. So you say you have no emotional attachment to insurance companies, yet that $45 million went to 7 carriers that are already writing insurance in the state of Louisiana. So if the intent was to attract additional insurers into the state, it failed. In addition to that, the $45 million to attract new insurers in, over 30% of the insurers that were writing business in the state of Louisiana when you took office are no longer writing insurance in Louisiana. 12 of them went bankrupt. 18 of them pulled out of the state completely. I'll say that again. 30% of the insurers that were doing business in the state of Louisiana when you took office are no longer doing business in the state of Louisiana. Fewer carriers means higher premium. The 2% fair plan assessment is a flow-through tax that has continued during the 4 years that you've been in office. Donilon has continued to refinance that debt and continue to pass that on to consumers. I haven't seen you do anything to remove that from carriers. Fair plan is supposed to be the insurer of last resort. It's supposed to be priced 10% higher than the parish that it's in, okay? Although there's no place to track what the average premium is in the parish it's in. There's no transparency to that. The $45 million that was supposed to attract new insurers into the state was supposed to do that by depopulating the Louisiana Fair Plan. In talking with Tim Temple, that depopulation started in March before the session, and that $45 million, who was given to 7 insurers that were already writing in the state of Louisiana, failed. So I'm trying to understand, when you say you have no emotional attachment, how you could give carriers $45 million.
Robert, 2 minutes.
Yeah, I spoke with the Tim Temple article I just read earlier today, I think, where he came out with those statements. And I spoke with Kirk Talbot, the chairman of Senate Insurance today, and we don't particularly agree with him, nor does Jim Donilon. And so there's discussion to be had with the success of the incentive program. Kirk Talbot and I both think that it has been successful, that it has brought in new carriers and new riders. And so that is a simple question to answer, and we'll get Jim Donilon and Tim, who's also a friend of mine, we'll get them to agree to disagree or answer that in more detail, but we can't answer it in any further detail tonight. But I think that our efforts were successful, and we are all looking forward to additional ideas, including from Tim, in our next session.
2 minutes?
Okay.
Do I get 2 minutes?
You're done?
Yeah.
You don't want to discuss insurance anymore?
These questions had time limits.
Okay.
All right, so that was Robert's question. So the next question will be, and I am getting people, y'all ignore those dings.
Right. We're getting peppered with questions here.
So the second question, Robert, when you ran 4 years ago, you campaigned against higher taxes. Within 18 months of taking office, you voted for one of the largest tax increases in Louisiana history. Why did you vote for the tax increase?
Well, I don't agree. If I'd like to hear what bill it is you're speaking of, because we went into our whole goal was in tax reform to go into fairer, flatter, simpler tax structures. And if you're talking about the tax swap that was Brett Alon's project, he went up to the Tax Institute in New York State, met with them, and came back with about 5 solid ideas of what to do. And one was to lower the maximum personal income tax rate and drop the deduction for federal taxes paid. It was revenue neutral. It was not a tax increase. And so if that's what you were referring to, we stand by that as being successful and a step in the right direction. Fairer, flatter taxes and a much more simpler tax structure for Louisiana is well known to be direly needed, and we were not able to do much more with the governor that we had this last 4 years. But with a change in command, we're looking forward to rejuvenating our tax simplification efforts and our tax reduction efforts. We moved $300 million of general fund sales tax from the general fund into a dedicated road fund. We've got the 0.45% sales tax scheduled right on the horizon to expire. Hopefully we'll be able to protect that, but that's for next session. So we were warned by the governor that we were lowering taxes too much, and so some people would disagree with you, but I think we've been revenue neutral in terms of taxation, and surely no tax increases.
Okay. You want me to read the question again, or?
Please.
Robert, when you ran 4 years ago, you campaigned against higher taxes. Within 18 months of taking office, you voted for one of the largest tax increases in Louisiana history. Why did you vote for the tax increase?
So these are not notes. What this is House Bill 214, Amendment 2709. This is the bill with which you voted to remove the sunset from the 0.45 sales and use tax, meaning that it would go on indefinitely. Now, estimates are between $460 and $600 million a year. In this vote, and you can read it, it's here, it's not notes, you vote, notwithstanding any other provision of law to the contrary, including but not limited to any contrary provisions of the chapter, beginning July 1st, 2018, and struck through as the sunset, there shall be no exemptions, no exclusions to the tax levied pursuant to the provisions of this section, except for the retail sale, use, consumption, distribution, or storage for the use or consumption of the following. The provisions of the subsection 1 of this section shall supersede and control to the extent of the conflict any other law beginning July 1, 2018, and struck through as the sunset. Now, this is the bill with the amendment. You said you'd like to hear where your vote for higher taxes was. Here are the votes. Here is your name where you said yes. So for you to say that you didn't vote for that, it's right here in black and white. And so you sit there and you say 0.45 sales tax to protect that sunset. You voted to do away with the sunset. You voted to extend that 0.45 sales and use tax right here. And this is going on throughout the state. So either you don't want to talk about it or you didn't know you cast the vote, but it's right here, House Bill 514, Amendment 2709. So that's the vote that I'm referencing, so you'll know.
Well, you've got a bag of notes to work out of it, I don't. And so what I'd like to do is have time to look at that myself, and I don't have time now. Thank you, though.
Yeah. Well, again, it's right there. It's House Bill 514.
Well, I don't agree with anything you've said, because is the 0.45 extended? Does it not expire?
Your vote, it's crossed through. It goes from July 1st, 2018 indefinitely. So in 10 years, if $600 million a year is the estimate on what this is costing taxpayers in Louisiana, over a 10-year period, that's a $6 billion tax increase.
Well, I don't agree with what you're saying, but again, I don't have the documents.
Well, you don't have to agree with me. This is your vote. So, I mean, you can take that with you.
Okay.
I don't agree with anything you say when it comes out of your briefcase there, and I object to that, dude.
Gentlemen, I mean, I think both of you have made your point. You've made your point that he voted. He's saying that he disagreed with your vote. You know, we agreed that we weren't going to go back and forth at each other. I gave y'all a little latitude to kind of, you know, address the issue. I think we've addressed it. We got off of the 2 minutes between each of you. If y'all would like 2 minutes apiece to have your own comments, a little more on this subject, that's fine. It's up to y'all. Or we can move to the next question.
Next question.
Okay. Let's see here. I think that will be your question. All right. What can or would you do to ensure that the constituents of Senate District 36 would get roads, bridges, and infrastructure that they need? Adam?
Will you read it one more time for me, please?
What can or would you do to ensure that the constituents of Senate District 36 would get roads, bridges, and infrastructure that they need?
Well, the first thing I would do is make sure that I understood the need. So one of the things that I commit to doing is talking with the local elected officials, which I've done. As far as Bossier Parish, the top 3 priorities are all state highways. And so that's a way of double taxation. If the top 3 roads that need to be fixed are state highways, the people in Senate District 36 have paid state taxes to take care of those roads. Yet the police jury is having to fix those roads, those bridges, because we haven't been able to get the state to take care of that with the state money that's been paid. 22% of the tax revenue that comes to the state of Louisiana comes from North Louisiana. 9% of it comes back to North Louisiana. So when you say, what would I do to ensure that we would get that money back to Senate District 36, what I would say is we haven't been able to get it back. Now, this is your tax vote where you're taking that off. In a minute, I'm sure we'll talk about your vote to bust the spending cap, where you had a large tax increase put on the citizens of Senate District 36, and then busting the spending cap where that money didn't come back. What I would have done, and what I would say to do, is what can you do to ensure that roads and bridges are taken care of? Pay down the debt. Pay down the debt. As a business person, free cash flow. By paying down the debt, it would have freed up, depending on which economist you listen to, between $250 million and $400 million. That's money that can continually be reinvested. So let's just say it's $300 million a year that it frees up to come back to the district. Over 10 years, that's $3 billion. Now that has to be spread out throughout the state. But you voted for a tax increase that over that same period of time would have added $6 billion to the taxpayers. I don't think it's too much to ask to bring that money back. And so I would reverse the question when it's your turn, is I'd like to hear what you've done to ensure that money has come back to Senate District 36. And I yield my time.
Okay, Robert?
What I've done consistently for 4 years is work with the parishes. I had 4 parishes involved with Senate District 36. I do to this day. And meeting with those people to define the needs, of course, and trying to help them understand the need for the proper application for capital outlay, where they have projects that are big enough for that, and on smaller projects, just hearing their request and trying to prioritize those with any funding that's available. Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development is a very poorly run department, and our district in this part of the country is headed by David North, and he's you know, a fine fellow, but he struggles with the budget that he's got. We've got as many bridges per capita as or more than most areas, and we've really got at some point a you know, a deficiency of funds for the roads, the bridges, and we've got to be a little more selective about where we're spending our money. LDOTD has been unresponsive in some of that. Yes, Bossier Parish, particularly with sand trucks on Highway 3, has been having to spend quite a bit of money on the repairs that you would like to think the state would make, but we don't have time to wait for the state to do that, and the state does not have it properly funded. You know, again, we're going to try to work with the new administration, get on the radar, but in the meantime, I have used my supplemental bills to be able to divert money into Bossier Parish when available for bigger projects, and I'll continue to do that. Hopefully, the last governor vetoed quite a number of spending bills for this area, but we've got some makeup to do. But I'll continue to work with the committees that I'm on and with the funding groups that we have in Louisiana to get North Louisiana, Northwest Louisiana, Bossier and Webster singularly properly funded as best we can. It'll never be enough, but we're going to be down there fighting every day for District 36, which changes size and shape quite a bit starting January of 2024. But it'll be a little bit easier to get Bossier Parish and the town of Minden in Webster Parish. It'll be a little bit easier to get them on the radar screen, since we'll have one senator basically for all of Bossier Parish instead of two, and one of them was Shreveport based. But so the redistricting is going to be a positive in the long run. And with my seniority in the Senate, being a second term member, I'll be able to have a direct effect on the funding of the bills that would be required to get Bossier Parish and Minden properly, or as well as we can, funded for those road repairs. The seniority is a big deal in Baton Rouge, and so using my seniority, I will work to get money properly put. And that's one of the most important things I could do while I'm in Baton Rouge, is get more funding and get it properly placed into the district.
Okay.
Do I get 2 minutes, or how's
Do
that
you
work?
want 2 minutes? Okay. Hang on. Go.
So, what you said was seniority in order to effectively get money back to the district. That's how you plan to get money back to the district. I heard you explain that DOTD was a poorly run organization. I heard you say David North didn't have the resources that he needed. I heard you say that you used your allocation where it was viable to get those roads and bridges fixed. I just want to make sure I heard that correctly, because what we see is that money did not come back to Bossier Parish. What we see is that money was stripped out of capital outlay. What we see are the same priorities for Benton that the mayor says that he's been asking for 6 years still have not come back. And we're not talking about infrastructure that's not needed. We're talking about water infrastructure for Benton. And that's one of the fastest growing areas there is. Now, there was some federal grant money that was issued, okay? But I'm talking about state money where people paid state taxes. They expect that infrastructure in their area to be taken care of with their state tax dollars. And in my conversations with the Webster Parish Police Jury, Bossier Parish Police Jury, all of those individuals that itemize what those priorities are, there's been a resounding theme. We have not gotten that money back to our parish. And so if you're saying that 4 more years are going to change the way it's been, because then you have seniority, I just don't understand how that's going to work if you need 4 more years to get money back to our parish when you haven't done it during this 4 years. So that's my rebuttal.
Robert, 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I disagree, of course, wholeheartedly. I have a long list in my briefcase. I won't pull it out, read my notes, not required. But Webster Parish, particularly last year, received quite a bit of funding, and virtually all that they asked for and more. Late in the session, as to capital outlay, I was able to secure an additional $1 million for Benton for a water project, an additional $1 million for Houghton for a water project, $900,000 for the town of Sibley for a street project. And that was in addition to the other capital outlay that had been approved and put in the bills. Well, unfortunately, last minutes of the session, the Republican leadership of the House, in punishing several legislators, stripped out quite a bit of the capital outlay. And then subsequent to that, the governor stripped out the rest of the capital outlay for Bossier Parish, some in for Caddo Parish, and including my supplemental bill, which had quite a bit of funding for Bossier Parish. Beyond my control, the governor's got veto power here, and the House leadership with the conference committee was able to devastate Bossier Parish last year, and that was very unfortunate. So we were successful in getting those into the bill until the last few hours, and they were stripped out. And the mayor of Benton's well aware of that. The mayor of Houghton's well aware of that. Bossier Parish is well aware of that, and so very, very, damaging. We lost a year of capital outlay. We lost a year of supplemental spending in Bossier Parish. That money's gone forever. It'll never come back. It'll be my task to represent Bossier very, very well, and to try to get special consideration with my friends that are in positions of power to help us recover from that. I had a fundraiser in Baton Rouge a couple of weeks ago, and all 26 Republican senators participated in that. And so I work closely with the people in power in Baton Rouge. I'll continue to work closely with the people in power in Baton Rouge. It's a Republican-controlled legislature, and we have to avoid fighting among Republicans. And what happened last year should never happen again, and I don't think it will. So I look forward to getting back to Baton Rouge and recovering for Bossier Parish. Webster Parish, we've talked about trying to get more capital outlay requests made by them. They actually didn't have a capital outlay request last year. All the funding they got was from my supplemental bill, and I was proud to get that to them. So that's you know, that's the facts. Sorry about that.
All right, so the next question is Adam's question. In 2019, you ran saying you would oppose John Bel Edwards' budget-busting plans. Why then did you vote for John Bel Edwards' plan to bust the spending cap in 2023?
Well, that wasn't necessarily John Bel Edwards' plan, but the Senate President, Page Cortez, put the plan together that the entire Senate took a while, but the entire Senate fell in step with, and so all 39 senators voted to exceed the spending cap. You've got to go back in time decades to more than a decade to when the spending cap, well-intentioned and well drafted, in fact, was put into place. It was put in place to try to make it difficult to grow the government, and so it set up a three-year look-back provision, but it also had a provision for exceeding that cap when conditions demanded that. And so what happened with us was we actually had so much cash from the federal government. There was, of course, nobody envisioned the federal government throwing trillions of dollars down to the states in the form of American Rescue Plan and all these other plans that were meant to stimulate the economy, and of course they did, which drove us into an inflationary spiral. But nevertheless, the state of Louisiana had cash on hand that money is owned by the citizens of the state. We need to put it to work. And the Senate plan from all 39 senators, it wasn't mine, it wasn't anyone's. It was a plan put forth by the president, and he generated a lot of support for it. And so all the senators voted to do this, to pay down debt early, to the tune of close to $500 million, and to properly fund a substantial road and bridge construction project, and to get money back to the people, fully fund permanently teacher pay raises is one of those things. But so we put the money to work. We sent that bill to the House, and they wanted to spend down debt more. Eventually, the conference committee report did that, and it was a bill, but the spending cap increase was required even to pay down the debt. Allocating money to pay down debt and spending money to pay down debt are the exact same thing. So the spending cap had to be exceeded, and it was, and it's there's no regrets on that. We have the right to spend that. Louisiana has the right to spend that money as they please, and they did. The conference committee report, the Senate and the House decided how to do it, and that's exactly how it happened.
Adam?
So, in your previous answer, you said you work well with Republican leadership. And you just said something that I heard you say in your legislative update with the Republican women of Bossier. We had the money and we had to spend it. You just said you have no regrets in breaking the cap. The capital outlay that you said you got, you then went back and said that it was stripped from you. You're leaning on the fact that 39 people voted for it. So I don't know if you made a deal to actually get money back to your district and everyone voted in lockstep, but the critical infrastructure that you said you got was stripped away from the people of this district. And so I think one of the things that frustrates people is, well, the House did this, no, the Senate did this. At the end of the day, you voted to bust the spending cap. You voted right here for the largest tax increase in Louisiana history, because there's no sunset, on the 0.45. You say there's an excess in money because of federal dollars. The excess in money is because of that 0.45 sales tax. That affects business, that affects individuals. And so when you say you work well with Republican leadership, I don't see the effectiveness back in the district as to where that money is being spent. And quite frankly, in my conversations with jurors, with citizens and others, I don't hear people that say that they see it either. And so from an accountability standpoint, we had the money, we had to spend it. No regrets on breaking the cap. You ran last time saying that you were a conservative Republican. This is tax and spend. Plain and simple. That's it.
Do you want 2 minutes or?
Well, I'll take part of that 2 minutes. I'll just say again that when the Treasury of the state of Louisiana has cash on hand and no uses for it, it's time to get that money back to the people. How do you get it back to the people? Put it in critical infrastructure, desperately needed. We had billions of dollars of deferred road projects, bridge projects. We had millions upon millions of dollars of deferred maintenance on state buildings. We had roofs that were leaking and buildings that were under duress, and we're going to lose, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of buildings if you don't fix those roofs. So pay down debt, which we propose to do. But if you got leaking roofs in your house, you want to patch that before you pay off your credit card. If your driveway's got a pothole so big you can't get out, you need to get that fixed so you can go to work. You've got to fix roads, you've got to fix bridges, you've got to fix the roofs on buildings, as well as get the money back in the hands of the people. And we paid down debt. We paid down quite a substantial amount of debt. And so we tried to do more than one thing at a time, and I think we did it fairly successfully.
2 minutes?
Yeah. Real simple, and I know I can't address a question to you, but you keep saying roofs were leaking, potholes, all these other things. Very simply, where was that money spent in District 36? I mean, you talk about all these things that had to happen, and I'm sure they happened, because I've got a list of things like band uniforms for Southern University and grass cutting in Brushy Lake. There's a lot of places that money was used, but quite simply, where was that money? You said roads and bridges used in Senate District 36. And I'm hoping you can answer me.
Do you want 2 minutes?
No, this will go on forever.
Okay. All right. The next question will be your question, and it will be voters are concerned about the economy. Why should voters trust you with their economic well-being? Adam?
Well, I'm proud of a few things in my life. I'm proud of the fact that that we have a family that I love, and we're raising kids in this district. I'm also proud of the fact that I started a business here. You know that most businesses fail within the first 5 years. We've not only been successful with it, we've thrived in this area. We've invested back in the people. We've invested back into the schools. We've invested back into the area. You and I have been going back and forth on why people trust me with their economic livelihoods. You can't tax your way into prosperity. I think that's a very fair statement. And so when you talk about tax and spend, Robert. Why should they trust me? I think the fact that you ran as a fiscal conservative in 2019, and those are your votes, I don't see how they could trust you with their economic prosperity. I yield my time.
Robert?
Thank you, Duke. Like you, I was involved in businesses in Bossier Parish. The first refinery we bought with Calumet, the new generation of Calumet, was the Princeton refinery in Bossier Parish, and one of the jewels of Bossier Parish. It's always been one of the best jobs in the parish. It was high-paid union jobs, quite a number of non-union jobs, and one of the best employers in Bossier Parish. We subsequently acquired refineries in Webster Parish, Caddo Parish, other states, but the Princeton refinery today is still one of the greatest small assets in there, and quite a number of Bossier residents worked out there for us, and I retired from the company, but a lot of folks that I know are still there, and it was a blessing to be over here with them. So my office was in Bossier Parish from '93 on, and I enjoyed it out here. My actual office was in Fillmore, but you know, next door to the Princeton refinery. But it was a joy to watch the people grow up and be a part of that success story. But I am a conservative, and I'm a Christian conservative, and I've got all the trappings of such. When you have people's lives at stake, when you have their careers at stake, when you have their mode of transportation at stake, and when you have money to fix those things, you try to fix those things. And it's a shame when somebody takes that money away from you, but occasionally that happens. Happened last year with Bossier Parish. Very unfortunate, and I just don't think it'll ever happen again. It surely shouldn't. But I'm proud of my accomplishments with Bossier Parish. I'm proud of my family that's here. My wife has a substantial number of family members living in Bossier Parish in the Benton area, and we enjoy being here. And so all of the things you enjoy about the parish, I enjoy about the parish. The things you enjoy about Bossier City, I enjoy about Bossier City. I'm looking forward to representing Bossier City. I haven't had that pleasure in the last 4 years, but I'll take it on, and I'm looking forward to working with this mayor and the city council, and continuing my work with the Bossier Parish Police Jury. And they know where the money went, they know why the money went, and we're looking forward to getting those projects back on the books.
Okay. The next question is Adam's. Over the last 4 years, more people are moving out of Louisiana than are moving into Louisiana. What have you been doing, and what will you do to reverse this trend? Robert?
Very accurate, very, very depressing question. Again, Bossier Parish is growing fast as a weed, but North Louisiana in particular is losing population dramatically. We're losing jobs. We're losing good families, and we've been working hard, and I've been working hard to establish better education programs, early childhood education, early childhood care, to try to start where we can have a direct and immediate effect to keep our families here. The dropout rate in Louisiana is horrible. 50% or so of our kids are not graduating from high school. We've got to keep these kids in school. They drop out of school, they go right into a crime background, and they end up in the penitentiaries, and it's a cycle we've got to stop. We get these kids on a proper educational path early and keep them there. We'll come out way ahead, but that's a long-term job. Shorter-term job, I'm working with the truancy assessment centers. I've got them properly funded in Bossier, Webster, and Caddo parishes now. We're hiring people, trying to get these kids to stay in school, working on the first through the fifth grades in particular, and so where we can actually have a positive effect. So I'm working with the youngest. I'm working with up to the fifth graders, and of course we're working with the schools, trying to give them the resources to keep good teachers, keep kids in school, and avoid this dropout problem, which is really causing us a lot of problems. It pushes families out. The crime pushes families out. It keeps people from locating businesses here, so we've got to clean up crime. We've got to clean up and improve the education system and give people that look at Louisiana a fair and reasonable tax structure for them to bring their businesses to this place, have people that are willing to go to work and that are educated and ready. Our community technical college system is doing a great job of getting people job ready. Our high schools are starting to participate in that, so I'm actually encouraged. In the last 4 years, we've made significant progress with our technical colleges and with our our high school systems with the dual enrollment. So it's not all bad news, but we are still losing people to South Louisiana, and we've got to reverse that trend. We do it with jobs. We've got to grow jobs here, and that's my goal.
Adam?
We do need criminal justice reform. I think we have to go back to truth in sentencing, especially for violent criminals. I think when a 17-year-old commits a violent crime, we have to make sure they're tried as an adult. You know, in my conversations with Sheriff Whittington and Sheriff Parker, they're very concerned about those 17-year-olds, that they're committing those violent crimes. I do think we need to reverse that trend. Now, Bossier Parish Schools has a school called Bipstal. It's a technical school that was built from a bond from 2012. It is providing opportunities for kids that are not on the college path. HVAC, plumbing, woodworking, auto body mechanic, auto body detailing, auto body paint. We got engineering. We have all kinds of things that are in-demand jobs, high-paying jobs that are going to allow us and those kids to get high-paying jobs. I mean, Duke, I don't know if you've hired anybody as a HVAC person lately, but I got a chance to do that in the last few weeks, and I can tell you they make a very good living. And I think we need to invest in those like we have in Bossier Parish. I also think that people move to Bossier Parish for two reasons: safety and schools. Sheriff Whittington recently came out with his annual report, and he's done a great job along with other law enforcement of keeping Bossier Parish safe. I think those schools that you referenced in Bossier, another big reason Bossier Parish is growing while the rest of North Louisiana is not. I think we're doing a good job, and we need to broaden that, and we need to continue to invest in that. In order to reverse the trend, that education is key, but not just in the classroom where those kids are headed to a college path. It's very, very important for those students that aren't headed to that traditional college path. As far as the criminal justice reform goes, we also need to ensure that we can hire law enforcement officers. We need to make sure that we stand up for qualified immunity, that those officers can't be sued personally for actually just doing their job. In today's day and time, we need to make sure those law enforcement offices are funded correctly. We need to make sure that they're safe so people feel safe and will move to our area, will move into Louisiana. And right now, truth in sentencing, if I have a violent crime, or any crime for that matter, we're only serving 35% of that sentence. It used to be 65% of that sentence. It's so opaque as far as the amount of time being served. I think truth in sentencing is a very, very important tool. And I think if we are able to do some of those things, we can reverse that trend. Now, that trend has continued over the last 4 years. So as far as what we're doing during that 4-year period to reverse the trend, I can't answer that. That's been while you've been serving. So, yield my time.
You want more time, or?
No, we've addressed it.
Okay. All right, I think the next question is your question. And crime has become a top concern for voters. Why should voters trust you to help improve public safety? Adam?
Well, I think I addressed some of that. We just talked about Sheriff Whittington, Sheriff Parker. I think trying 17-year-old violent criminals as adults is very important. I know that there's been quite a bit of conversation because there's not enough beds in the Webster area. I know the city judge there during the last police jury meeting had extensive conversations about that. I know that the police jury has done a very good job of funding those beds that we're here. But we need to make sure that if we have violent offenders, I've got a 12-year-old, it'd be difficult for me to restrain him with a bear hug if he really got motivated. And so 17-year-old violent offenders, I just don't think that we're going to be able to try them and keep them where they need to be. But in addition to that, I think we need to provide them workforce training. Sooner or later, they're going to get out of jail. We got to provide them training where they can go to work and then become productive members of society, where they can have a job where they're not going right back into crime. And I think by doing those things, we can help make both Senate District 36, which I think is very safe, as well as Louisiana a safer place to live.
Robert?
Well, exactly. We've got, read the question one more time. Let me be sure we cover it.
Yeah, voters are, crime has become a top concern for voters. Why should voters trust you to help improve public safety?
Well, you know, we agree that Bossier Parish is relatively safe compared to the neighbors around us, and congratulations to the local and parish law enforcement, first responders of every sort. Fire, everybody has worked to contributed to this. It's a success story. And in fact, as when every now and then when Shreveport squeezes on their criminal element, they seem to skip Bossier and go straight to Webster Parish. And so I have spent quite a bit of time with Judge Centel and with Sheriff Parker on the issues at Webster Parish, and we're well aware of those. There's no new ideas here. I mean, all of these have been hashed out in the legislature for years. The ideas are in no short supply. Votes to get something done are in short supply. And so that's why we continue to try to put people in Baton Rouge that will try to make a difference, negotiate, legislate, communicate, and not just stomp your foot and demand, but negotiate and get those changes that are so desperately required. I'm working with the youngest kids to the earliest grades, you know, to the kids that are destined for wear with the judge, and I've met with a number of different judges around. But you know, it takes money, and that's an unfortunate part of it. And I don't know how much of that you heard last week in the Webster Parish. I was in the meetings beforehand and the council meeting or with the police jury meeting, that it's going to require a lot of money to get more beds. And so I did not want to, you know, we had jurors that said it's going to be too expensive. I said, well, let's just don't say that out loud right now. Let's get a plan and then worry about where the money's going to come from. And so I commit to continue to work with Webster Parish, with Judge Centel. I funded a great program in Minden, working with at-risk youth and minority youth in there. So I'm working it from every angle I can as a legislator and senator. And so I'll keep doing what I'm doing. Again, there's no shortage of ideas. There's a shortage of good votes and money. And to say that you're going to cut taxes and fund juvenile delinquency issues, they don't go in the same sentence. You've got to fund these things, and you know, you're going to run out of money quick enough with these good ideas. So you know, I will just continue what I'm doing, which is try to find the best solution with the money we've got, and work within the system, and you know, reduce the budget where we can, when we can, and that's coming up. Thank you.
All right. The next question is, what is your plan to reverse Louisiana's teacher shortage? And Robert, that's you.
You know, my plan is Kate Brumley's plan is a lot of people's plans. We've got to, one, respect our classroom teachers that we've got today, respect them, properly pay them, try to retain them, try to continue to educate them to be able to handle the stresses and the strains that they're under. We have a bad habit of putting more and more mandates on the teachers every year. I serve on the Senate Education Committee. It's been one of the most challenging but enjoyable committees I've got. Of the 4 committees I've got, the retirement, education, insurance, and Judiciary A, education's probably been and insurance have been the most productive. But the education is very challenging, and we've got to retain the teachers we've got. We've got to, and we have, in fact, in the last several years, we've made it easier for a teacher to come into Louisiana from out of state, recognize those licenses. We've made it easier for military people to move into state and immediately be able to get into teaching positions. We're continuing to make it easier to put people that are qualified. We're looking at military, retired military, being able to go into a school setting and earn their teacher certificate while they're teaching. We're looking at every possible shortcut to get people into the classroom because we're in desperate need of them. Start with the stock you've got, take care of them, properly pay them, properly respect them, and protect them where they need protection, because these schools, some of these kids, as you know, are very, very difficult to handle. And so we've got to protect those teachers in every fashion. And so we're doing that. We understand that. And like I say, we're way ahead of the game in Bossier Parish. Nothing's perfect, but we have a remarkable good system here, and generally on top of things in Bossier Parish. Some other parts of the states are really struggling. But overall, the same rules apply for getting teachers brought into the state. Basically, all hands on deck to increase that, and funding is a key piece of that. They've got to make a living wage, and so that's a goal of everybody, is to get our teachers properly respected and properly paid.
Adam?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the teachers that are watching this. My wife's a teacher. I know how difficult it is in the classroom. You said we're retaining teachers. We actually have more and more difficulty attracting teachers. In Bossier, what we did is we hired a recruitment and retention specialist to actively go out and seek teachers out. The other thing that we've done is we kind of call it our Grow Your Own program. Those kids that are in the 8th grade that are interested in becoming teachers, we're providing them classes at Bipstal and bringing them along and showing them what education is all about, in the hopes that they're going to go off and then come back and become educators. You said properly pay them. You mentioned it earlier also. I think we need to drive that money back to the teachers, and we've recently done that. We recently updated the salary schedules. A starting teacher in Bossier Parish, first year out of school, makes just north of $50,000. That's a dramatic step up. But they had a teacher pay raise that was down in the legislature. That came back as a stipend. When it came out of the House, it was paying off the unfunded accrued liability, which would have driven that money back to the local government in order to provide that teacher pay raise for those teachers. But it came out as a stipend. Now, had that money, as far as Bossier Parish goes, had come back and paid off that debt, that mortgage payment that would have freed up locally would have actually gotten them more than the $2,000 stipend for professional employees and $1,000 for unclassified employees. So we'd have been able to pay off the mortgage, which would have freed up the cash flow to give them that money. That would have been in addition to the money that they've already gotten. I also will say we've adjusted the salary schedules without raising taxes. We didn't have to go and vote to raise taxes to do that. Now, before I got on the board, there was a teacher pay raise tax. Right after I got on the board, there were 2 things that I saw in Bossier Parish. I saw the biggest divide between education and business that I'd ever seen. But I heard both sides of that vote say teachers deserve to make more money. So how do you do that? What we did is we hired Lean Frog, which is an educational consultant. They looked at our school district school districts in our state of similar sizes, school districts in our region of similar sizes, and said, what are they doing? And we looked at them in the areas where we're spending the most money: transportation, food service, HR. We looked at places where we could effectively cut money to be able to give it to the classroom teacher. And I just don't see us cutting money to properly invest in that classroom teacher as far as what we're looking at here with the state. And that's what I think we need to do. So that's what I think would address the teacher shortage.
Okay. All right. We are on the last question from each candidate. And I would propose that we shorten the response on these last two questions from each of y'all to 2 minutes so that we can get a question off the internet or two, and we can get through it pretty quick. Does that sound good to you guys?
Okay.
All right. So the last question, Adam, and this will be yours, or it'll be Robert's to you. Do you think that parents should be limited or restricted from speaking at school board meetings?
I think parents should be in charge of the decisions for their kids. I think parents should be able to speak. I served on the school board and was president of the school board when John Bel Edwards declared a state of emergency. There were 3 bodies that could overturn that and give the locals the ability to act: the governor, who declared the state of emergency; Bossier, who have appointees on that board, enough from the governor to where they stopped it; and the legislature. And so the fact that you talked earlier about having a supermajority in the Senate, and you talked earlier about being on the education committee, we asked for that power to be able to act. So when I was the president of the school board, the first thing I did, the first thing I put on the agenda was the fact that we thought parents should have the right to choose for their children, whether they wear a mask, whether they don't wear a mask, whether they get vaccinated, whether they don't get vaccinated. I spoke to a lot of people that emailed me during that time with opinions on it. I didn't run from it. I talked to them. Just because you want your child to wear a mask, you're the parent. You should have the ability to say your child's going to wear a mask. But on the reverse of that, it shouldn't be mandated to you to do that. I'm against mandates. I've proven that because on the school board, the first thing we did, and we were the first parish in the entire state of Louisiana that did that. But legislatively, we could have been given the ability to do what we did. Instead, we acted and were very much bullied from the governor's chair and a great number of legislators for doing what we did. And so as far as giving parents the right to speak, I think as far as my serving on the school board, we've given parents the right to speak.
Okay. Robert?
It's a simple question, yes. School boards all across the state and all across Senate 36, which will eventually only be 2 parishes, but is 4 today. I've been keen on trying to get more parental input to the school boards. A lot of people will, get on Facebook and make comments and all, but they won't go to the meetings and express their proper opinions. And I'm a big fan of the parents going to a school board meeting and contributing. I think that's the best way to do it, and I encourage it.
Okay.
Can I get 2 minutes or a minute?
All right.
Okay.
A minute.
We have an uptick in COVID. And so should this governor, who's a lame duck governor, declare a state of emergency again for that, will you have a special session and take those mandate powers away from him? And if so, why didn't we do that last time? Work with the senators in the supermajority to give those abilities to those local school boards to make those decisions.
Robert?
Well, I drafted a bill to take away the original emergency powers from the governor, so I'm a big fan of that. Individually, I can't call a special session, but I would surely participate in a special session to do that, and I'd be proud to take a last slap at Governor Edwards before he goes off into whatever world he's going off into. So yeah, I'd be glad to do that.
Okay, last question. what are your plans to lower Louisiana's insurance rates? Robert?
Well, it's all hands on deck, and I'm working hard to do that right now. We've got multiple issues, and it's such a big question. That's a shame. We could spend several hours on that. Car insurance.
Disregard.
Is that
Disregard. That is
fire
not
alarm?
yours.
You know, automobiles are their own market, and it's a serious problem. We've got to reduce the total losses involved with cars. That includes the ever increasing cost of car repairs. Hopefully the markets are going to calm down with that, but distracted driving is a problem. We're going to have to deal with that. Uninsured motorists are a problem. We're going to have to deal with that. A very complex issue, and but we cannot lower these car insurance rates without getting into people's business and getting into it pretty deep. And so I commit to work with the legislature, with the insurance commissioners, when possible, to try to help that that automobile insurance. Property casualty, also a substantial problem in Louisiana, obviously a different problem in South Louisiana in the coastal zones than it would be in other parts of the state. Where we've got, really unique problems with houses built relatively poorly in consistent flood zones, they're going to have to deal with those in their own fashion, because we either have to raise those houses, fortify those houses, do something with those houses, and the cost of that should not be borne on the houses built in dry ground and in higher elevations, particularly North Louisiana. North Louisiana has their own issues with hail and with straight line winds, but that is going to be reflected in our rates. But we've got to try to isolate Louisiana into several zones, isolate the problems into several zones, and work with the insurance companies to respect the diversity in Louisiana from the southeast, the southwest, the central area, and in the north.
Adam?
Well, I think y'all took a stab at it while you were down there, but ultimately you have to attract more carriers. It's supply and demand. The more supply of policies there are on the market, the lower rates are going to be. And you have to allow those insurers, we have to stop subsidizing what's going on along the coast up here. So if they can get off that risk that may be in that low ground, they could provide up to 3 policies in North Louisiana, which will effectively lower rates here in Senate District 36. There are also some other things that we can do, both from an insurance perspective. Your Apple Watch, it's telemetrics. It tells you whether you've been involved in an accident. There are all kinds of new sensors on cars. So supporting vehicles that have telemetrics, where they know how fast the car was going, they know what happens. Then there's parametrics, which are going on in Europe right now, where if you have floodwaters that come into your home and they reach a certain height, the insurance company generates the check immediately. If it reaches another height, the insurance company generates the check immediately. Now, telemetrics, based on how that works, it also will help with billboard attorneys, where there's a lot of lawsuits that go on. But if that telemetric says I was going 1 mile an hour when I backed into somebody, it may be more difficult to prove that. I think we also could go to a loser pays system in the court system. If you went to a loser pays system, then some of these frivolous lawsuits, with my years in the industry, I could tell you quite a few stories, they'd stop. Because if they took it to a jury and that jury heard it and it was going 1 mile an hour and they are saying that there are significant injuries, the loser pays 2 or 3 or 4 or 500,000, however many of those cases it takes, where that individual that brought the suit has to pay for it because it's frivolous, will start taking care of some of that reform. I also don't know why we have to create everything ourselves here in Louisiana. There are other states that do this effectively, more effectively than we do. And I think we need to look at what they're doing.
Okay, Rex, that completes the candidate questions. Are there any gems from the internet? I'm sure
Oh,
there
are
is.
plenty. So far, we're at 242 comments just during the show, and we've been running about 135, 140 people consistently watching during the show. So that's pretty good, I would say, and a credit to both you guys for being here and discussing the issue. So a lot of this, honestly, the questions that I'm seeing, y'all have covered a lot in the debate, but I would just pick out maybe one or two here. One of the questions is, and Duke, I'll let you decide who goes first or whatever, but one of the questions is, will you vote for any emergency declaration that in its context will violate any constitutional rights of the citizens?
We'll let Robert.
So kind of going back to the COVID lockdown situation, if that happens, it's in the news media and all that. What are your, to kind of simplify that, what are your stances on voting for any emergency declarations that would violate our constitutional rights?
Yeah, the last question was Adam, so we'll let Robert answer it first.
I would never knowingly vote for an issue that would interfere with a constitutional right of any individual. The Constitution reigns supreme, so no, I would not vote for in any scenario where it would infringe on your constitutional privileges.
Adam?
Make the same commitment as Robert.
Okay. Let's see. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't ask something about term limits. Here we go. So from our good friend Wes, you can guess who this one's from, but he did put a Q in front of the question. All right, so he says, term limits are the law of the land for state legislature, but is a point of contention in Bossier City so far. As the state representative, or senator in this case, for thousands of Bossier City residents, how do you feel about the current local term limits debate and the lack of action by the city council on the certified term limits petition?
Adam, you'll be the first on that.
I signed the petition. I signed the petition for the city. I signed the petition for the police jury. I signed the petition that was sent to us by whatever third party that asked if we thought congressional members should have term limits. I think those fresh ideas are important. I worry sometimes about how that will be carried out, but the entire time that I have served on the school board, I have had term limits. I know that the legislature also has term limits. So as far as this seat goes, both of us are currently serving under term limits.
Okay.
Robert?
Yeah, I've supported I've been a member of U.S. term limits for many, many years. That was one of the first ones that came out, and maintained that membership to this day. I was there, front of the line when we signed the term limits for the Bossier effort here, and so I've never failed to support term limits, and it's embarrassing to watch Bossier City struggle to put something that's so obviously required and wanted by the population. It's a little bit embarrassing to watch the efforts that are not successful at this point in time, but will be. Obviously, it's the will of the people, and I'm sad it's taken this long. The city needs term limits, and I think we'll get those pretty promptly.
Okay. And I'd just like to say that I know there are several more questions, and there's a whole wealth of comments going on right now, and I'm sure will be going on after the show. So I would recommend to both candidates that maybe, in the next day or two, go through and read some of the comments, and you might want to, reply to some of those comments and address them. Some of them you may not.
Yeah, so, on behalf of the citizens of Bossier Parish, I'd like to thank both of you guys for your service to date and your continued willingness to step up to the plate. A lot of folks don't understand the sacrifice and the consequence of putting yourself out there in the ring in politics, because it's a blood sport, and both of you guys are gentlemen, and I think both of you are you know, worthy of being a senator, and I look forward to seeing the decision of the voters of Bossier moving forward. And you know, I think we're in good shape either way.
About a month from now.
Not long.
A merciful month.
And I hope y'all will be able to be friends after this race. In politics, a lot of times races happen and folks are not able to be friends, but I think maybe we should try to promote and encourage that more. So
I'm not worried about that, and I'll tell Adam what I've told people before. I said, you know, in 2019, which was a pretty contentious race, the day after, I assumed everybody voted for me, and so it just made life easier. And so
Right.
I'll do that again. I venture Adam would do the same.
Thank you for the debate.
Oh, good. Thank you, sir.
All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap up the show here. Of course, we'd like to thank everybody that has been watching, and it, like I said, has been a very robust commentary to say the least. I think both of y'all did a great job answering the questions and all that sort of thing. We'd like to thank, of course, Pelican Training and Consulting, Julie Ferris, as well as Transact Card with Miss Renee Hall, and of course, Karen Duke with Acadiana Mortgage. That's it for tonight, folks. We'll be back, let's see, what, next Tuesday night?
Tuesday night.
Next Tuesday night, we'll have more to talk about, and Duke and I will be on our soapbox, which the candidates had for the night. So we kind of stepped off our soapbox for the night. All right, we're out of here, folks.
Good night.
Appreciate y'all watching.
Night.
Supper time.
Ooh, you're getting late.
Yeah.
We're off.
Oh, yeah, I could have done a lot more.